Yeah, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Online students, I'm audible and you could see my screen here. Online, am I audible? You could see my screen. Yes. Okay. So where are we, guys? What are we discussing in the last class? Use strict is the one what we have discussed. Okay. Let me import the file. So what we understood is we understood about the strict mode. Okay, so yeah, when you go with something called as JavaScript, there is something called as use strict is the one what we use. When we come to the React, we'll be using a predefined, what is this? It is a predefined component. Okay, this is how we make use of the component. So what is the use of this strict mode? What we are going to achieve there with this? It helps us to generate two versions. Whenever we are going to run your application, it is going to run make your development version and the production ready version. Okay, then the problem is like when we go to the production, when we actually want to deploy it, we don't need the development version. So at that time, what is going to work? It will automatically make use of only on the production. But when we are using in the local version, it will be showing that two versions which is going to get executed. That is the reason whenever the component gets compiled or executed within the browser, we see that two times the console log or whatever we see, it is two times it is coming. Why the reason? Because of the strict mode, it is getting executed for twice. Okay, so if we remove it, we see that it's going to be only once, but it's not going to be a problem when we go to the production. Okay, so this is what we discussed, and what else we discussed? We have not created any new components, right? Yeah. So the next task, what actually we are going to, that is the only thing we discussed in the last class. If else condition also. Okay. Where we added. Okay. So now we are comfortable with how do we iterate over the elements within your page at the same time? How do we iterate? No. When you're iterating, how do we put the if conditions? Okay, if you see the logic over here, we are actually putting the conditions within the HTML itself. This is not the case when you go with your plain JavaScript and HTML and CSS. At that time, we have to use your DHTML code. But now within your markup itself, within your HTML content itself, we could able to add expressions. Under that, you can put the iterations, you can put the conditions also. Okay, that is what we discussed. And on the top, did we complete it about iterating over the JSON object? Iterating over the JSON object? No? Okay. Iterating. Okay, we only discussed about iterating over the array. Under that array, either it could be the direct values or JSON object. That's what we have seen. So let us see how we could able to iterate over the JSON object. What if like I have a JSON and I want to iterate over that? So under the SRC, I'm going to create a new folder, something called as components. Okay, and I'm going to create a new file, which is, so instead of that, let us say new folder, say something called obj iterator. Okay, under this, let me create a new file, which is object iterator.js file. Either it could be JS or JSX or TS or TSX when we go with the TypeScript. Okay, so under this, I'm going to create a component. So how you're going to create a component here? Function component should be always uppercase. Object iterator. And I'm going to return a markup. Under this, I'm going to say some div object iterator, something like this. Okay, do I need to export this guy? Yes, I say export so and so. Now, can I import this guy under your app.jsx? Okay, let us see what actually it is getting executed. npm run dev. Okay, this is what we have seen. We could able to execute a table which is iterating over the JSON object, and here we could able to add some conditions. That's what we have seen. So for now, under your app.js, we have actually added directly under the app.js. Instead of this guy, we would have added a component. I'll do one thing. I'll take out all of this. I'll take out all of this. 1 second, guys. Okay, so let me take out this guy and let's create it as a separate component. Under the components, let me create a new folder. Under that, conditions and iterator. Under that, new file. JS6. Under that, say some function. Okay, so now we can make use of this component under your app.jsx. Import from components, conditions iterator to that conditions iterator. Okay, let us see how it is executing. This is how it is coming. Now, under this, I even want to make use of this. What was that? Object iterator. Now, to make use of this guy, what I simply do is I say import object iterator from /component/ object iterator / object iterator. And how do we make use of a component? So you see, this is how it is. Okay. Let us now, can I have like this? We cannot return multiple markups here. We have to return only one single, which is either empty tag we can go for, or we can keep it any of the predefined tag here. Fragment, we call it as. Okay, now when I go back here, what happened to this object iterator is having an issue. So we are returning this. That's fine, right? What is the issue here? Fail to parse source from import analysis because the content contained invalid JavaScript content. If you are using JSX, make sure the name is JSX or TSX. It is JSX. Oh, we made it as .js here. Okay, this is how it is coming. And where is this? This is the iterator what we have. And for now, let me remove the background app.css. We have added this page background. I'm just removing this. This is how it is. And for now, I would like to go with only the object iterator, not with this. In that case, I can simply go to app.jsx. Let's comment out this guy. Okay. So now we have only object iterator. Okay. Any questions up to this? Online, any questions? Pramila. Yes, that is the reason I have not commented, ma'am. If you see, it is so simple that now in the form of components we are getting, I just make it this comment. I'm just commenting this component. If you want this component to be alive, just uncomment it. It will be rendering on the page. Okay. Now the next part what we have is, let's go into this object iterator. I say something like where, say some customer details, customer account details, where I'm going to have the name as Mr. Raj. I say account number as say some like this. I say account type, which is savings. I say balance amount, which is something like this. Branch code. Okay, something like this. This is what the account details I have. My expectation is I would like to iterate over this JSON object and I would like to show it on the page. Now you may ask me a question, boss, if at all you have to go with the iteration, you can simply go with the li. You will say something called as name. What is the, I can say something called as some H3 account details. And under that, if at all you want, I say some name, which is, I can do this, right? So customer account details dot name. What is this concept is called as? Now when I want the data to be rendered on the page, what happened? Legal local litigators are not allowed in strict mode. I gave it in the right direction. Okay, so if at all I have to get the name to be displayed on the page, I can simply say name and Raj, isn't it? What is this concept is called as? Directly getting the JavaScript content onto the page. What is this concept called as? Come on. Data binding, isn't it? So that is what we call it as data binding. One-way data binding I have shown you. We haven't discussed about the two-way data binding. One-way data binding is from the JavaScript to the UI, you could able to get the content. Okay. Now, what do you mean by, okay, that is one-way data binding. Now, what my question is, boss, if at all you want to get the data, I can simply say name, account number, everything you could able to get it. But my requirement is, what if you don't know the structure? Okay, what if you don't know the structure of the JSON object? Still, I would like to iterate over it. So that is where we are looking for this. Now, my expectation is how you are going to iterate over this. If it is a plain JSON, plain JavaScript, we used to say something called as customer account details dot, sorry. So we used to say something called as var key in customer account details. This is what we used to do if it is JavaScript. But now I'm doing this under your markup. Okay, within the markup, within your HTML, I would like to do this. Then how you're going to implement it. So in order to do that, I'm going to say something called as object. I'm going to put an expression. I say object dot keys of object dot keys. Yes, object dot keys of so and so dot map method. And this guy is going to be the key. Okay, now let us see. I'm going to say This guy will be the key. And I'm going to say some li. Under that, I'm going to iterate over this key. Now, once we reload the page, could I able to get the keys here? So what actually I'm doing is I cannot make use of the for in looping control structure within your markup. Now, instead of that, what I'm doing is object.keys method. If you remember in JavaScript, we have a predefined method, which we call it as object.keys. What actually that guy will do, he will iterate over the JSON object and it is going to return the array of key values. And that guy, I'm using the map method. Okay, now how you're going to get this? I say key hyphen and the value is what? It will be customer account details of key. Okay, now once you come back, reload, this is how the data is. Now, not just only this account details, you give any JSON object. Okay, I could able to retrieve the data and I could able to iterate over this guy. So this is again a good interview question in your React here. They will ask you about how do you iterate over the JSON object within your markup. If it is JavaScript, we have the for in looping control structure. But what if like I want to iterate and I want to show it on the page? This is how you're going to iterate over the JSON object. Any questions up to this? Online, any questions up to this? We are good? Iterating over the JSON object? Okay. Now, the next concept what we have is one of the very important concept, guys. React.js. Okay, so the next concept what we have is state management in React. Okay, one of the very important concept. Yasmin, this is the only we can do in React. We can do in React iterating over JSON object. If it is React, that is the only option we have, Yasmin. Okay. I mean, what do you think that we are missing here? Do you think that, oh, no, it can be done in other way? Or do you think that this cannot be done here? Because like the intention is I should able to retrieve over the JSON object and I could able to get the key and value pairs. Now, if we are getting this, what do you think that we are missing? Let me know if you still have questions on that. Okay, I can still keep this guy inside the bold format like this. Okay, yeah. So the next concept what we have is state management. So what do you mean by state management, guys? Have you ever heard about something called as stateless protocols and stateful protocols? Okay, what do you mean by this? Okay, what are the different protocols we have? What are the different protocols we have? We have something called as HTTP protocol. We have something called as HTTPS protocol. We have something called as FTP protocol. We have something called as TCP protocol, etc. So there are lots of protocols we have. So HTTP is hypertext transfer protocol. HTTPS is hypertext transfer protocol with security, and FTP is file transfer protocol. TCP is transition control protocol. Whatever this mobile communication happens, right? Mobile communications happens through the TCP only. Okay, whereas this FTP, anytime we want to send or receive the files from the client to the server, we go with the FTP protocol. Whereas this HTTP, HTTPS are web protocols. Anytime we are going to communicate with the sending and receiving the data, that we go with the HTTP and HTTPS protocols. Now, when you come to this HTTP and HTTP, because we are into the web technologies, under the web pages, it's always either through HTTP or HTTPS. For now, we are going to make use of only the HTTP. Okay, whatever this guy localhost 5173 is HTTP. If you want to go with the HTTPS, we have to go with the certificates and PEM files, etc. That we'll discuss later. Now, under this protocol, what happens is it is always something called as stateless protocols. So what do you mean by the stateless protocols? Stateless protocols in the sense, whenever I want the data, whenever I'm putting a request to the server, I go to the server, I put a request to the server, and I get the data and you forget. Okay, in case of your communication, either you go with get or post communication. What happens is go, get data and forget. Okay, this is what happens. Whenever I'm putting a request to the server, I'm going there, I get the data, I'm getting the response, I'm done. Now, even the server also doesn't maintain the request. Now, for example, I put a request to the server. Boss, this is my ID, this is my password. You please validate me. I send the data to the server. Server responded back saying that you are a valid user. Done. Once this communication is done, there is no communication. Once this data is been received, there is no communication between the client and the server. The communication has been done. Now, second time, boss, give me some book details. It will again ask me that whether you are a valid user or not. It doesn't hold the state, something called whether you have already visited. For example, he come to me, say like, boss, I'm a registered student here. Can you give me the notes for this class? Okay, I have checked this ID password. I said like, you are a registered user. He went back. Again, he come back and say that, give me the notes. Now, again, I will ask a question. Are you a valid user or a valid registered student or not? Implies I'm a stateless here. I'm not maintaining the state of it. Now, if it is state in the sense, what do you mean by this? First time he will come to me. I will say that I will ask this, what is your fee pay? He's going to give me the receipt here. I will say that you are a valid student here. He goes back. And again, once he come back, he says that, boss, I want the notes. You are a valid registered student. I'm giving back. Again, he comes back. Give me the git access. Again, I'm giving. This is what we call it as a stateful protocol. But when you come to the HTTP and HTTPS, there's nothing going to be a state management is not going to happen. It is always a stateless. Now, how do I make it as a stateful? Okay, how do I make it as a stateful so that anytime I'm putting a request, anytime I'm receiving the data, I should able to, the server guy or the client guy has to maintain the state and it has to know that who is the person who you have approved or anything, all the complete data I should able to maintain. Now, in order to do that, the state management is the concept what we are going to use inside your React. And from your latest React 19, we can even manage state in both client and server side. Okay. So using your React latest, what we can do is we could able to manage the state here in both the client side and the server side. Now, in the server side, we don't talk much about the server, but just to give the statement in the server side, state management, or else to manage state in server side, we can use React, which internally uses Next.js to manage state. If at all, in the server side, you have to manage the state management, we can go with the React. The latest React, it is possible to manage the state management, which is internally using a Next.js library. Okay, anyway, we are not going to look into this concept for now because we are still into the client side only. Maybe later we are going to see how you're going to do at the server side. Right now, we are not bothering about. Right now, our expectation is I want to manage the state using your client side. Client side state management. Okay, client side state management in React. So whenever people say that, boss, I want to manage some states here under your client side. So there are actually 3 different ways we can do that. The first thing is using class components. Okay. So till now, we are creating the components. Are we creating the class components or the functional components? Functional components. If you see the component, whatever we are creating, it is using the functions we are going to do. So earlier, what we used to do is we have this concept of class components also. You know how we are going to do? We say something called as class. For example, this is the component we have, right? Object iterator. If at all you have to do the, if at all you have to create a class component of this is how we used to do. Okay, we return all the JSS, etc. We using the class itself. But now we are going to make use of the functional component itself. Why people used